financing, uh, while you go into equity, while the business is running, as a venture capitalist, you get returns from dividends. Well, at the point that you are exiting the business, that business is revalued, and it is the current value of that business that will be your stake, and that becomes your return. So my key question is, in the diminishing musharaka, is the house going to be revalued at the point that the money is finally being paid, or is it the earlier sum? Because at that point in time, if the house was 19 naira, perhaps at the point the money is being paid fully, the house would have been 180 million. So that's my question.
Now, yes. The answer is yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, it should be, talked about because it's units. At the end of the day, they are units. So maybe say the house, like I said, is 100 million naira. So that means 1 million naira per, it should be divided into units. So if you divide it into a million units, then that means 100 naira per unit. That means 100 naira per unit. So a million units, you own 100,000 units. The financier owns 900,000 units, right? So each unit is revalued. So maybe every 2 years, every 3 years, each unit will be revalued, based on externalities and internalities. So maybe, for example, that's a house now. They've done the road. They built a new company there, and so on and so forth. So the value of that house, obviously, rises. So your rent, that one is a separate one, but the equity payments you pay to buy off his own stake, of course, that will be revalued. And it could also, because it's equity, so it could also drop in value. Who knows, for whatever reason why the house might drop in value. So I think that's a level of equity must be.
That's another part of the possibility of being drop in value that makes it fair. Because I'm trying to understand, typically property goes
Yes.
But there's a downside to the other way.
Yeah.
And that means it's that value that you're going to pay.
Yes. Well, I mean, like I said, the idea is just purely you are buying off his stake, right? And they are divided into units.
So it means in your original contract agreement, there would have been a clause to say that at some particular time, you're going to revalue.
Okay, so let me also mention is that in the diminishing musharaka contract, within the Islamic financing context, in the diminishing musharaka contract itself, you cannot stipulate that the homeowner must buy the house. You can't put it in the contract. It's like a promise, to be honest. So if you put it in the contract, it nullifies that contract's validity. So you can't put in the contract that the buyer must buy off the house. So it's promise. But I mean, why won't you? Why won't you buy it? You are paying rent. So why don't you just go and pay rent in a house whereby you are not having to pay equity stake as well?
So please, the first, I still want to ask you that. I want to know if your organization is into it. So in case you are interested, that's my first question. That's the ending of my first question. Then my second question is, in terms of the sukuk that you mentioned, the Islamic bonds, the first time I heard of sukuk, and we've seen quite a lot, even on Lagos Sabota Express roads, sukuk. I've been wondering, how did they determine the benefits that accrues from that engagement? Now that you mentioned toll gate, it became clear. Okay, if it's true toll gate, it's clear. But the one on Lagos Sabota Express does not have a toll gate. So what instruments do they use in measuring the rates of return or the benefits accrued as a result of that investment for them to know? Or is it just the same thing as the normal bond? They just fix a rate and see if it comes. Because I've been wondering, how do they get the return? We know if it's the normal conventional bond, they have their own rates. Maybe it's MPR or whatever. But MRI is MRI, or what do you call it? MPR. But as for Sukuk, we don't know how they do it, so I don't know if you can expand on that. Then my third question. He's not here. Otherwise, same question. Same question. About and second, I want to ask maybe is it the same as all this the rest? I want to know how this land because there are some scholars, so they are coming to down that how can family business will not be safe. What they back, what they say, how they get the profit. So anything you want to say is Islamic, you must see something that they got, something that they said, the government this and that. And the whole they don't have to be and they say that's one of the scholars, that's how it is. They are going to be that they are saying and they are sharing money. Which one is that? This and that. So this how Islamic is and is it the same as Java, the last one is just a policy. Let me just because in the building industry, once you're building a house and so it's a community that may benefit from, and it's beyond 3 floors, you must insure that house. And as a Muslim, the key question is how do you get insurance into that house? So I don't know if you have an insight into how one should go about it because it's mandated, it's the law. And the usual thing is that they just push you into the conventional one that is wrong. So that's my question.
Now, so so firstly, with sukuk, sukuk is or was designed for project finance. So project finance is not just roads; it's a hospital, uh, fire station, roads, bridges, and so on and so forth. And in project finance, there's the grantor. The grantor is essentially the one facilitating that, and there is the investor. And normally, conventionally, the project would have a source of income, right? So there will be cash flow. There will be cash flow. So that's the difference between project finance and corporate finance. In corporate finance, we are looking for the return. In project finance, you're looking at cash flow, right? And also in corporate finance, you're looking at fundamentals. In project finance, you're looking at cash flow. Now, where is that cash flow coming from? It's coming from the ventures or whatever it is that they build around that project with that project to be able to make money. Normally, that is how it is. And when I mentioned roads, I gave a typical example, which is toll gates. Toll gates is a typical example they use to make money. Now, with Yusukuk that we see around here in Nigeria, I believe I don't have deep insight to it, but I believe there's a Sharia, maybe like a group of scholars that they assess these things for federal government. So governments will have their own set of people that they assess all these things, and they say that they've given them a stamp that yes it's halal compliant. So I know that a lot of roads do have toll gates, and it might not be a toll gate, it might be another kind of venture that is making money that is tied to that project, so they're getting money from. Uh, but obviously with the trust deficits in this government, it could just be that just like Amy Philip, it just brings ways and means. Let's just give these people. So there's that level of distrust there. So one can have a manner for the government, trust in their Sharia. You can do research into their Sharia sitting to find out who is validating these instruments, and then you can have a manner in it, or you can want to be extra conservative and extra cautious, and I'm like I'm staying away from it. But generally, there are projects that are tied in one way or the other to this. There are ventures that are tied in one way or the other to this project that make money, which they then disseminate to the investors. Then with the other question about yeah, musharaka mudaraba.
So can we calculate same if you also Islamic financing tools or
Musharaka is joint equity partnership, right? So in sukuk, you are not because there is some people they call it the sleeping partner and the working partner in musharaka. The sleeping partner in mudaraba rather. In mudaraba there is sleeping partner and working partner. So the sleeping partner is the yorobul month. The working partner is one that is working to try and make money with the financing. So I would say the closest to sukuk will be the mudaraba because you are just putting money down, right? And then the whatever it is they are doing is making money for you, right? So the only risk you bear is financial risk. So the closest I would say is mudaraba. But musharaka is different because in musharaka everybody is working or everybody can be working. Everybody can be working. So that's the difference. So Murabaha is also different. Murabaha is just like credits. It's like a credit system whereby you see something you can't afford it, so they just buy it and then they pay it to you. They sell it to you at a profit, but you pay in installments. I mean, well,
Interest. No, sorry, before the insurance, I don't know if there's any. You have an insight
okay, yes,
on
sorry.
insurance?
Now, so with the insurance, again, from what I've heard from the scholars, of course, like I said, there's that aspect of Darura. I mean, if you want to build a building, and in Nigeria, for you to build a building, you have to, get this kind of insurance. It's just like our car. If we don't get insurance for our car, FRS will stop us on the road. So what the scholars say is that with the insurance, you should only get as much as is required, not more than that. Because if you go and a lot of these insurance companies, they offer more. They offer more. They're like, okay, yes, government say you must insure, the building, but you can also insure your security system. You can also insure. So the scholar say that you should just go for the required uh, insurance requirements.
So,
I mean, well,
I want to ask about interest. You made mention of interest, which everybody knows. But if you notice, in Nigeria, most places to seek for loan and seek for lend for loan, they are all like all these conventional banks. So they base it on interest. So today, I would like you to tell us, as from Islamic perspective, where can someone seek for loan? Maybe Islamic banking, or maybe there's an organization, or maybe there's any setting that you can seek for loan. Spirit, no, that's no interest. So I want to give us an insight.
now, so some of these conventional banks, they have uh, Islamic Islamic packages. So, but what they are doing these days is that they are detaching it from themselves. So it's less than a subsidiary. So like Sterling Bank, for example, you can get Islamic compliant loans, but you can just go to Islamic banks like Islamic banks, Lotus, Jaiz Bank, Taj Bank. These banks, these three I mentioned, they're Islamic banks. So you can get loans from them. What I would, however, say is that Islamic banks, you know, aside from just typical loans, the other financing modes is typically more expensive than the conventional loans. So, um, and there are a few reasons for that. Obviously, the Islamic banks, they do not enjoy the deposits war chest that the conventional banks have. They do not have that, right? So, they charge more because sourcing their funds, is more expensive. Secondly, a lot of these banks, conventional banks, they borrow from each other. So banks borrow from each other as well. But the rates actually they borrow is at the money market rates. So there's the OPP and OVN rates. That is OBB, that is the open buyback rates and the overnight rates. That's the rates that banks use to borrow and lend money from each other, right? Conventional banks, they can borrow money from that facility. That's interbank. GT Bank can borrow money from Zenith Bank. So that adds to their money and they can use that to lend. Islamic banks can't access that market to get money as well. just like them, because that's interest that they are paying, right? So a huge part of the funds that they have is dependent on CASA, that's current and savings accounts, right? Um, so yeah, so that's one of so that's these are part of the reasons why Islamic financing is more expensive, But at the end of the day, I mean, when you consider that you want to stick to what the Quran says, then it's not that expensive. So yeah, Lotus Bank, Jais Bank, Taj Bank. I think you can explore these three, inshallah. I know.
Yeah. I think my question, part of it has been answered, but I have just one to add to it. Uh, a company that, let's say we have a subsidiary, a company that is operating non-Islamic instruments, that is a riba company, but also floats another company, which is not a riba company. So can we as a Muslim, can we invest in that one which is owned by that riba company? Can we really invest on it? Because we believe in one of the saying of Sharia that whatever something you are doing and a riba is the one that is the one reaping that thing. That is I'm trying to collect the Arabic test. That it's just like bank. You are working at an Islamic bank, a conventional bank, and you as a Muslim, you know that you are not supposed to work there. So whatever bank is bringing out, we believe is a product of interest. So we are not allowed to work there. So the same thing, I'm now looking from the perspective of another business, which is also owned by a riba operating business. Can we as a Muslim invest in? Since their core activities is not riba based, so can we still do that, or we have to go back to the same Sharia point of view that like that of the bank that I started as an example?
Please allow me to refer you to the scholar again, because I think that's also a question for I think that's a 50 question as well. So um, I mean, what's a company? A company has assets and liabilities, has receipts and disbursements. Okay, so that's referring to their balance sheets and their profit and loss. So if um, the company, its activities should be halal. um, the money is making, hope they are not directing it back to their parent
Yes,
company, and
yes.
then now using it to do what do you call it, now using it to do haram activities. So maybe, so I think due diligence is key. Due diligence is key. Now, whether, if that bank was set up with haram money, because if say GT Bank now, they set up another bank, they call it I don't know, Fanta Bank, and that Fanta Bank is an Islamic bank, right? Fanta Bank, it's it's into halal business. It doesn't engage in interest. It doesn't even direct money back to GTCO that they be using for haram instruments. But the money they use to set up Fanta Bank is haram business. I'm sure that that's where the scholars can come in. Whether by virtue of that you can now be investing in that, or you can now be patronizing that kind of a company. But I mean, to be honest, I don't think is an issue, because I think that the services that an institution renders is what matters. So if uh how do I put it now? Let me just refer to the scholar, please. Just please go to the scholar. I mean, well,
Then lastly is how do we differentiate between diminishing musharaka and ijara? Because I believe ijara is also an element of rental income. So then you have also cited an example of diminishing musharaka. So I'm now like, is there a difference between the two instruments?
in ijara, there's no shirk at the beginning. Shirk meaning sharing. There's no shirk at the beginning. So in ijara, it's just a lease. The ownership is 100% with the financier. So I'm a taxi driver. I want a car. Car is 20 million naira. The financier, say maybe Lotus Bank or Jais Bank, they buy the car for me. 100% ownership. This is under ijara. is with Jais Bank. So they're just leasing it to me. They're leasing it to me. Maybe as a taxi driver, I'm remitting to them every week 35k or something like that. So they are leasing it to me, and then maybe at the end of a certain period, I can decide that I want to buy it, But there's no sharing like in Musharaka by virtue of of the name, right? There's already an equity partnership. You're already sharing it. But with Ijara, 100% ownership is with the financier. Typically, contracts like that, the financier is, because he's 100% owner of it. Maybe if the car has major faults, he's the one that will fix it. If the car papers, he's the one that will be renewing it.